You ever notice how marriage is still painted as the ultimate goal for men? From movies, family pressure, to society itself, it's treated like the finish line of life. But is that finish line really worth running toward? Today we challenge that belief. Men are told marriage will complete them, that it brings stability, happiness, even status. What's rarely mentioned is the psychological cost. The pressure to provide, loss of freedom, and emotional weight that often isn't equally shared. Many men enter marriage expecting fulfillment, only to find they've traded independence for obligation. That realization hits quietly, and when it does, it forces a hard question. What exactly was being offered, and at what cost? This isn't about bashing women or relationships. Love and connection are human needs. But marriage is an institution shaped by culture, law, and tradition. We have to ask if it still serves men today, or if it belongs to a different era. Psychology shows men in unhappy marriages experience higher depression, stress, and health problems. The weight of unmet expectations chips away at mental health. Yet men are told to endure in silence, even when they feel trapped. Ask yourself how many married men you know who are truly thriving. Not surviving, not joking through pain, but genuinely fulfilled. That list is usually short. Behind the jokes often hides regret, and regret is a heavy burden to carry. Marriage is rarely presented as a choice. From childhood, men hear, "when you get married," not "if." That subtle programming matters. When something feels inevitable, we stop questioning if it's right for us at all. Philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre spoke of radical freedom, choosing your own path instead of inheriting one. But if marriage is treated as destiny, where is freedom? Following without questioning isn't choice. It's surrender. Economics adds another layer. Divorce rates remain high, and when marriages fail, men often face financial devastation, assets lost, income drained, years of effort erased. The risk-reward balance feels increasingly uneven. Psychology teaches that healthy decisions offer fair returns. But marriage for many men feels like a gamble with devastating downside and uncertain reward. Betting your future stability on something statistically fragile isn't irrational fear. It's calculation. Existential thinkers questioned institutions that limit freedom. Marriage can feel like one of them. When your time, choices, and dreams are bound by obligations you didn't fully choose, are you living authentically or playing a role? Beyond money lies identity. Marriage reshapes how a man sees himself. Suddenly he becomes a role, a provider, a pillar. With that comes pressure. Over time, personal dreams fade as responsibility takes center stage. Psychologist Abraham Maslow spoke of self-actualization, reaching your highest potential. But how many men can pursue that when marriage demands constant sacrifice? Survival replaces growth, and when growth stops, the spirit slowly withers. Nietzsche said, "Become who you are." It sounds simple but demands courage. Marriage often locks men into a narrative written long before they existed. Can you truly become yourself while living someone else's script? Men are taught to suppress emotion, to be the rock. In marriage, that burden often intensifies. Many men provide emotional labor without receiving it back. That imbalance erodes mental health and leaves men feeling unseen. Love and marriage are not the same. Love is natural. Marriage is constructed. When obligation overshadows affection, the fire fades. The institution doesn't guarantee love. It guarantees responsibility. Marriage also reshapes a man's external world. Friendships fade. Personal passions pause. Time and energy are absorbed into one role. Over time, men become isolated from the parts of themselves they once loved. Most men struggle to maintain identity outside their marriage. When your existence revolves around one contract, one person, one institution, life shrinks. That's not fulfillment, that's confinement. One of the heaviest expectations in marriage is provision. Being the constant provider creates immense stress. Burnout, resentment, and anxiety follow. Yet men are rarely given space to express these struggles openly. There's an emotional paradox. Marriage promises support, yet for many men it becomes emotional exhaustion. They give deeply, but rarely receive equal care. This silent imbalance is one of marriage's hidden costs. Psychology calls it cognitive dissonance, when actions conflict with values. Many men feel this after marriage. Living a life they didn't fully choose creates mental discomfort that grows louder over time. This often surfaces as a midlife crisis. Years pass, dreams fade, and a man wakes up in a life he doesn't recognize. The realization hurts, but it also warns. Losing yourself comes at a steep price. Marriage isn't just a commitment to a person. It's a contract with society, history, and tradition. Philosophers argue true freedom requires self-determination. If you're bound by an institution never built for your freedom, are you free? Stability is often used as marriage's selling point. But stability can suffocate growth. Comfort can quietly replace potential. The question isn't whether stability is good, but whether it's worth the trade. Society programs men to see family as the ultimate success. But success isn't universal. Some men thrive through independence, creativity, and exploration. Marriage often limits the freedom to define success personally. Psychology shows autonomy is essential for mental health. Yet traditional marriage pressures men to prioritize others' needs over their own. Chronic self-sacrifice without alignment isn't noble, it's damaging. Men trapped in unhappy marriages often develop learned helplessness. They feel powerless to change their situation. Over time, this leads to numbness, depression, and quiet despair. The issue isn't marriage itself, but outdated expectations. Modern men live in a changing world, yet are bound by old rules. What if partnership could exist without sacrificing autonomy? More men are questioning marriage's value. This isn't rejection of love, it's re-evaluation, a call to redefine connection without the weight of outdated structures. Legacy is often tied to marriage, passing on a name, raising children, building a family. It sounds noble, but legacy isn't limited to bloodlines. Impact, creativity, work, and contribution also define what you leave behind. Psychologists stress the importance of purpose. Marriage promises built-in purpose, but that purpose may not align with your inner calling. Many men trade their personal mission for tradition and later realize they lived someone else's life. Society reacts harshly when men choose not to marry. They're labeled immature or selfish. When will you settle down? Becomes constant pressure. Ironically, we praise freedom, yet punish men for exercising it here. Not marrying doesn't make a man incomplete. It means he chose authenticity over expectation. Psychology calls this living in alignment with the self. When a man chooses that path, he frees himself from invisible chains. Power dynamics matter. Laws and cultural norms often leave men vulnerable in marriage. Custody loss, financial penalties, and emotional dismissal are common risks. Entering an agreement with tilted scales deserves serious reflection. Love alone doesn't sustain relationships. Psychology shows commitment, communication, and shared growth matter just as much. A legal contract can't fix broken dynamics. Marriage doesn't solve problems, it amplifies them. Divorced men often share the same regret. They ignored warning signs, believing marriage would fix things. Instead, problems became legal, financial, and life-altering. That reality isn't discussed enough. Philosophy reminds us life is about becoming. Men who bind themselves too early to rigid institutions often stop growing. Safety replaces expansion, and when growth ends, existence becomes containment. True masculinity isn't obedience, it's self-leadership, choosing your own path despite criticism. A man who rejects marriage isn't avoiding responsibility. He's taking responsibility for his own life. A generational shift is happening. Younger men watched fathers struggle silently or lose everything in divorce. They're questioning whether repeating that cycle makes sense. That questioning isn't fear, it's wisdom. Psychology calls this metacognition, stepping back to examine beliefs instead of inheriting them blindly. Men who question marriage are thinking critically, not rebelling emotionally. Critics claim society collapses without marriage. History disagrees. Human connection existed long before legal contracts. Families, tribes, and communities adapted naturally. Marriage is only one model, not the foundation of humanity. Psychology favors flexible systems. When people can choose how they connect, relationships become healthier. Forcing one rigid structure weakens society by suffocating individuality. So the real question isn't why men shouldn't marry. It's what marriage actually offers men today once pressure, fear, and conditioning are stripped away. Love doesn't require marriage. Stability can be built independently. Respect comes from self-alignment, not a ring. Completion doesn't come from contracts. This is about awakening. Awakening to freedom, growth, and authenticity. Awakening to the truth that the bravest choice isn't always the socially approved one. Marriage narrows choices. Decisions become filtered through obligation and legality. That's not freedom, it's managed living. And many men don't realize the trade-off until exit becomes costly. Regret is one of the deepest human pains. Many men regret compromises more than risks. Too often, marriage is the compromise that clipped their wings early. Kierkegaard said anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. Fear of uncertainty drives many men into marriage. But courage is choosing freedom even when it feels uncomfortable. This isn't rejection of love, it's separation of love from structure. You can build deep bonds without contracts that may one day work against you. The world doesn't need more men trapped in unhappy marriages. It needs men who are awake, engaged, and alive. Men who pursue purpose, create paths, and show others there's more than one way to live meaningfully. Imagine men who refuse roles they didn't choose. Men who embrace love without contracts. Men who define success by growth and contribution, not a ring. That future isn't hypothetical, it's already unfolding. Instead of asking what's wrong with men who don't marry, we should ask what's wrong with a system that insists they must. Because when examined closely, that pressure often has little to do with love. Control hides behind tradition, control of identity, resources, and expectations. Walking away from marriage isn't rebellion. It's liberation once you see the structure clearly. Psychology teaches growth begins when we question inherited beliefs. Philosophy teaches freedom is humanity's highest pursuit. Together they point to one truth. Men should never feel obligated to marry. This isn't anti-love, it's pro-authenticity. Relationships matter, but freedom matters more. A man living truthfully contributes more to the world than one living under obligation. Ask yourself honestly, are you living for yourself or for expectations you never agreed to? That answer shapes your entire life trajectory. Choosing love without marriage isn't weakness, it's clarity. It's strength rooted in self-knowledge rather than fear of judgment. Modern dating has changed everything. Apps, global access, and social networks expanded connection. Marriage, however, remains built on an outdated framework that hasn't evolved with reality. Psychology shows humans thrive when systems adapt to them. Marriage doesn't adapt, it demands conformity. Men who resist it aren't rejecting love, they're rejecting stagnation.